Welcome to ProjectME the Podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multi-millionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME the Podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. You are listening to the podcast ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. Hey guys, this is episode number 42, Scary Stories from my 11-year entrepreneur journey and what I learned from them. I had to do a Halloween-themed episode. Well, I didn't have to, but it was a great excuse for me to share stories I've never shared before. Even some of my closest friends don't know these stories that are scary, wacky, bizarre from my long entrepreneurial journey. And I think you guys will for sure be entertained, but also hopefully learn from some of my mistakes. I'm pretty vulnerable here sharing these stories, so I would really appreciate it if you guys could do one of two things, or do both to make me really, really happy. But take a screenshot of listening to the episode and post it on social media and tag me at ProjectME with Tiffany. Also, you can leave me a review on iTunes. A written review would be great, especially for this episode. I would appreciate it. Do that instead of giving me candy on Halloween. All right, so my first scary story from my 11-year entrepreneur journey, my first one was leaving my corporate job, okay? Leaving that corporate job to start my business was one of the scariest things I've had to do. Now, if you guys have listened to most of my episodes or have heard me speak live somewhere, you know that I teach something called the straddle method. I don't teach or advise just upping and quitting your job without having a plan. So I believe in the side hustle and then transitioning out. But there's always exceptions, like if someone has, a major windfall of cash on their lap. That's a different story. That's a great story, actually. So leaving the corporate job was still scary for me, even though I had built up my side hustle, my business, enough to where it was matching my base salary in corporate America. And I say base salary because I was in sales and marketing. And when you're in a sales and marketing position, especially if you're in a big corporation, I was in the pharmaceutical industry, they give you a very generous base salary, and then all the rest of your compensation is based on bonus, meeting numbers, and more numbers. So I told myself I at least need to match my base salary consistently, meaning for me, that meant 4 to 6 months, and not just have 1 month where my paycheck was matched. I needed to see that this was something that was going to occur month over month, that I didn't just have a random good month in there. But let me tell you, wow. It was still terrifying for me to leave. And I came up with all sorts of crazy reasons not to leave. And by the way, it's not like I was happy there. Now, the actual job itself was not the issue. It's just the environment that I was in, and that, when you're just done with something and you've outgrown it, it doesn't really matter where you're at. It's just time to move on. So it's one of those situations. But wow. I was still terrified. And I know some of you listening are like, wow, if, my side hustle or even my business now was matching, my corporate salary, that'd be a no-brainer. I mean, I knew I was going to do it, but it was ripping the Band-Aid off. And I came up with all this crazy mindset stuff, and it was just all fear. I came up with, what about my health insurance? My company pays 90% of my health insurance. Having my own company, I'm responsible for 100% of it. Then I went down, that's a more logical, fear response. That's something's okay, that's fear, but that's still That's still ridiculous because I think at that time, my insurance was like $400 a month for me to pay for it myself. It's like, if you really think about it, like $400 a month to have freedom and follow your dream and have your own business. Okay, I think we can handle that. But then I even went to a crazier fear response because in the industry I was in, and in a lot of situations when you are, a high-end, high-level sales professional, you work out of a home office. So they pay for a laptop for you, a printer, a car. They pay for all your office supplies, your cell phone, your internet. I could go on and on. So there's a lot of perks, right? So that kind of scared me because I knew I was going to lose those perks. And as you guys know, I'm obsessed with office supplies. So I had like endless source of office supplies, right? That was like a huge perk to me. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to buy like my Post-its and even my staples and Scotch tape, and I'm going to have to buy that myself. And I started really spinning out of control. And believe me, I'm still using office supplies that I have from back then. And I'm not even joking because that's how many I have and hoard. Problems. I told you it was an addiction. It's a real thing. So that was terrifying. Obviously, it worked out really well for me. And I knew I needed to do it. That doesn't mean it's not scary, right? And we still have to do it anyway. So that's one of my scary stories. Another scary story, which is going to be a little more entertaining for you guys, is once I was already had my business. I'm trying to think how many years in I was in before this happened. I think it was 2 or 3 years into having my first business, which is TLC Enterprises. Totally different business from ProjectME with Tiffany. That's more of a corporation focused business, corporate clients. And for that business, in the beginning, when you start a company, and I know a lot of you guys can relate, or at least you can imagine, you don't want to turn down opportunities, paying clients. And of course, I teach things much differently now, but I didn't have access at the time to all these great business coaches and entrepreneurs that share so much free and high value information like there is now. There wasn't podcasts, there were the main people that I've seen, speak. There were still the Tony Robbins and stuff, but those weren't like accessible for me to just like pick up the phone or, to hire someone for a month or something like that. So I had to figure a lot of this stuff out on my own, and by really getting myself into very uncomfortable and borderline dangerous situations. So I didn't really know then how to say no. I thought you just had to say yes because you need to like bring in more revenue for your business. So I wasn't very discerning when it came to clients and, clients, corporations, companies that I agreed to work with. And so this one client, of course, I can't give any information that would give them away. But this one client, I'll just say this. They're a small player, but still known in the skincare industry. I'll just say that. And I was working directly with the owner, which is often the case with my other company. I work, with generally with people who are in executive management or at the top, because we're doing high level marketing, sales, and revenue strategy. So it involves money. So you're going to be working with the people at the top. That's a great thing. You want to work with people at the top. That's wonderful. But when the people at the top are crazy, then you're like, oh my God, where do I go from here? Because the people at the top are also the people that control you getting paid or how hard it's going to be for you to get paid by them. So this is what happened. So I did the work. I knew enough, right, to make sure that with certain types of jobs and in consulting, I always take a percentage or a month up front. That way, if someone goes bankrupt, they run out of town, I don't know, God forbid, they die, then I at least got paid something for my effort. So I don't put out the effort first and then hope to get paid. That's okay if it's like a large company, you know, you're working with a Pfizer or you're working with Nestle or Kraft Foods or something like that. That's different. You know, those are giant corporations that aren't going anywhere. But with small businesses, micro businesses, or individuals, it is generally a good idea to get something up front. That way you're cushioned. If something happens, you at least got paid something, even if it's not the full amount. So I did do that in this case, thank God. But still, I wanted the full amount. I did the full amount of work. So, okay, let's move the story along. I can tend to make stories too long here because I get excited. Okay, so this individual, this company, right? I did the work. I did it extremely well. I followed through with everything on my end that's in the agreement, blah, blah, blah. They owed me a final check of $10,000. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to me now. It'll be a lot of money to me when I'm worth $100 million. It's just a lot of money. I value money. And I earned it and I wanted it. So this owner was playing games because the reality is he developed some sort of, I don't know if it was like a crush, but some sort of infatuation with me during this process. I've kept everything high level. Certainly, I had no interest in this person, but they developed some sort of interest in me and felt maybe because of their net worth or success or whatever, or the power position they felt they were in, that they could pretty much have whomever they want whenever they want. Well, that wasn't going to be me. And I did sense a little bit of this along the path, but I kind of brushed it off because as a woman, and this happens to men too, but it does happen generally more to women. Women, when we're in the workplace, especially in a workplace where there's a lot of men, I've been sexually harassed. I've been technically sexually assaulted, meaning touched when I've not wanted to be touched. I can't even tell you how many times. So I became almost a little numb to it and brushed off the little remarks here and there that are technically inappropriate. You know, if they were said in an employment environment at a company, like they would be written up by HR. So I was a little numb to it, right? That's on me. And I learned to navigate it by kind of blowing it off, redirecting the conversation. Sometimes I would kind of do that uncomfortable laughing it off and didn't think much of it. I was just like, okay, this is another like power player guy, you know, situation. So the mistake there, I would say is, you know, I'm much more discerning now. I'm much more aware of how many times those comments happen, and anything more than once for me is too much. And I say something, but I didn't know to say anything then. I thought if I said something, I would lose the gig or not get paid. But anyway, I digress. Because I wouldn't go on what was very clearly a date with him, and I wouldn't go with him, even though I was very polite about it. He was pouting. He was pissed. He didn't get his way. So he inadvertently tried to make sure he got his way. And he was withholding, sending me a lot of people didn't direct deposit that back then. In fact, a lot of corporations still don't direct deposit. I know, especially to people who aren't employees, like outside contractors and consultants. So it's like snail mail check, okay, to my business address. Nope, wasn't going to do it. Wasn't doing it. Always had a story, was out of town, story. Well, I know from being in sales so many years, I know what the runaround looks like. And I'm like, damn it, this guy's giving me the runaround, but I know he's good for it. He has the money. There's a game. And finally he said, oh, I'm going to be in town, meaning LA, which is where I'm based, Los Angeles. And I'll be in town. I'm staying at blah, blah, blah hotel. And how about you come down, we'll grab a bite to eat and I'll give you the check. Well, you guys can put it all together. he was forcing a date on me in order to get the check. And I was like, oh my God. And I'm like, but this is the only way I'm going to get the check. So it's $10,000. And so I went and I told myself, you know what? You don't have to eat with the guy. Get the check. You know, you can have a drink, be polite, get the damn check and get out. Cause it's not if I'm not there with intentions of it being a date, it's not a date. Just get the check, get the check and run. I showed up. No, wait, he was way too savvy for it. And he probably has done this before. And it's not like it was on the table. There was no envelope on the table. There wasn't even like a binder on the table, nothing. It was clearly in like a suit jacket pocket. He had already ordered appetizers. It went down a whole path. It was ridiculous. And I was so uncomfortable that I didn't want to like kind of come across like, give me the damn check, because I was afraid of not getting the check. It was out of control. So I just kept on encouraging him to have drinks because he was clearly enjoying himself having drinks. He thought I was keeping up with him. I wasn't. I was throwing the drinks on the floor. And I actually one time like took the drink to the bathroom with me. And then I left it on the bar. And then when I came back from the bathroom, I had them fill it with like cranberry and soda. So he thought I got a fresh drink. So he thought I was like, having a night of drinks with him, which what he thought that was going to lead to, right? So he was getting buzzed and I just instinctively went, all right, I'm asking for it. And I did the, just so I don't forget, so I don't forget to ask you for it. Why don't you give me the check now so we can get that out of the way? He handed it over. Totally handed it over. I put it in my lap without him noticing I did this. I checked to make sure there was a real check in there. It was a business check. It was signed. There was no weirdness. And it was all good. And I can tell you this, I was gone before dessert. I got up. I used the bathroom. I came back. When I came back to the table, he was already talking to some chick who walked by, and I just left. So I was like, no, I left. I got the check. There was part of me that was a little scared to do it because I'm like, he could actually cancel that check. But I drove it to my bank. My bank was obviously closed. It wasn't going to clear. But then I called my bank in the morning because the check was already deposited. And I said, please make sure that, this check is cleared. Because once a check clears, it's a lot harder for someone to retract it. And he did not retract it. In fact, I don't even think he really remembered how I left, if I left, because he was that intoxicated. So crazy story. I mean, the check, the money cleared. I never had to worry about it. I never had to hear from this person again. I feel like I saw them somewhere at a conference once, but I'm not quite sure. It could have just been in like a bad dream. I would have handled myself in the situation totally different today. But I think I was like, I don't know. I was maybe 32 years old and still really green in business. And, I was afraid that I wasn't going to get the check. And for those of you who are like, well, you could have just like sued the guy for it. Well, for anyone who's been in business long enough, that in most situations, it is not worth suing in order to get money. It'll cost you more money to get that money. So it's not always worth the time and effort. Obviously, if it was a bigger dollar amount than $10,000, that'd be a different story. In this case, it wouldn't have been worth it. But wow, did I learn a lesson from that? I felt like I earned that $10,000 check in just that evening. Like, that's how much work and stress that was. And on my drive home, I promised myself like that I would be much more discerning and I wouldn't brush off, flirtatious comments or remarks about my body or things like that. I wouldn't do that ever again to myself. And I've not. So let's go on to one with a female client. This was really early on. This was my first year in business. And oh my God, truly, this client didn't fit my ideal audience. It didn't fit my target audience. This person was, I don't want to be rude, but like way too like small time. This was almost like doing someone a favor. This didn't fit at all with the rest of my company, but a friend of a friend said this friend of theirs, I don't even want to say what industry they're in because that might give them away. So let's just say they're an author. Okay. So this friend of a friend's an author and they need help putting together a full marketing strategy and plan, and publicity in order to promote the book that was self-published, blah, blah, blah. And I went, okay, that's interesting enough. Realistically, with that business, I should have said, that doesn't fit with my business model and what I do, but I appreciate it. But I didn't know to say that then. I was just excited to have clients and people who wanted to pay me. And again, the common theme is I wasn't discerning enough. So my first conversation, because this person didn't live in my area, the first conversation was a phone conversation. At that time, video conferencing was considered kind of weird. Like, it existed, but it was kind of a weird thing to do. It was still the primary form of, communicating was, phone conference lines and stuff like that. So I didn't get to see this person face to face. It didn't cross my mind. It wasn't a thing, like I said, but I wouldn't have even really needed to. I'm listening to this person. I don't remember ever being able to answer a question that she asked. She talked so fast and nonstop that it was bizarre. When you like talk to those people, or maybe you've like someone at the airport or wherever, and you're out to dinner or something like that, and you're like, this person is for sure on something. Like they're on something, and they're on a lot of it. It was that kind of a deal, but I made excuses because I didn't want to be judgmental. And this was a friend of a friend of a friend. And I thought, well, they're probably just really nervous about their book being out. And they're just really excited. And a lot of people can get nervous on the phone when, you're talking to a consultant or someone to hire you. I went down a whole path of excuses. Again, a common pattern of my past. You can imagine what my dating life looked like back then. Yes, it looked the same. Thank you. Except the stories are way more entertaining. So yeah, wouldn't stop talking. And I was like, why am I even on the phone with this person? And you have to pay me to be, you have to pay me for me to be on the phone with you. So she's paying to hear herself talk. And at some point I was like, okay, I'm just going to listen to her and not answer any of her questions. It was really bizarre. Anyway, I decided after I then had another phone call with her, because I was like, you know what, give someone a second chance, because I do know that especially when someone has a business or a product, or even if it's a new position with a big company, sometimes people are just like super, wired and hyper and stressed. So I like to give, a lot of people a second pass. So we had a second phone call, and it was more of the same. Except this time she really wasn't even making sense. Like started speaking about really out there conceptual topics and conspiracy theories. And I couldn't cut her off. I mean, it was one of those people where I literally had to fake a disconnection in my phone because I literally couldn't cut her off. I even said like, hey, I've got to go. Hey, no, couldn't hear me. So I just hung up, and I was like, you know what? If she's offended, I'll say, I don't know what happened. The phone cut out. If you guys are ever in that situation, do that one. It works. I was like, I don't know what to do about it. And I wasn't going to email her or anything right away and say, oh, our phone got disconnected, because I didn't want to have to end up back on the phone with her. So I waited it out. I waited several hours and I said, I don't know what happened. My entire phone system went out over here at the office. We'll have to touch base via email, send me anything via email you need to wrap up. And I went to bed that night so stressed out and almost feeling a little like frightened. It was like, this is a really bizarre person. And I thought, why? I don't think I want to even take this person's money. Like even for the phone calls that I already, the phone calls, because truly I didn't do anything. I took up my time, but I just listened to her go on and on and on. And I didn't even want her money. It was one of those people where you're like, their money like comes with bad energy. I don't even want it. So the next morning I let the friend of the friend know that it's not really a good fit with my company, and that I'm going to let this author know that, that's just not a great fit. I think that, someone else would be better suited to help her, the whole politically correct professional thing to do. I did all that. She proceeded to flip out, harass me on Facebook. I mean, to the point where it was so bizarre that I had to do, report a full complaint to Facebook. Because what she would do is, even if I blocked her, she would then create new profiles in different names to harass me on there. And it was insane. She went as far as she would look and see like who obviously like my close friends and family were. As having business profiles wasn't like super popular back then. So she could see who, by people who commented and like who were in my inner circle or whatever. So she would start harassing my close friends. That's how far she went with it. Fully insane. I can't tell you how many things I had to submit to Facebook, tons of screenshots, because she kept putting in different names. But I guess they tracked her through her IP address. I told Facebook if they weren't going to, at a certain point, if they weren't going to rectify this and shut her down, at least within 2 weeks, I was going to be forced to have to go to the authorities and do a formal, restraining order. I mean, it was that crazy and that vulgar and violent to where it was going to end up affecting my business too, because you come and check out like my page and you have some weirdo writing things all over the place and smearing me. Not good. So that would be called the nightmare story on unstable client. By the way, Facebook did fix it and they tracked her per her IP address because everything was coming from the same computer. And she actually was not even allowed to she was blocked from Facebook entirely. And I've never heard or seen from her again to this day. And that's fine with me. That's totally fine with me. And I'm thrilled I never tried to get $1 from her, sent an invoice, nothing. I want nothing to do with that money. Okay. So the final tale, the final scary tale of my entrepreneur journey I'm going to share is one that I wanted to share that has to do with my second company, ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. I thought be silly not to share one that's from, something that's a little more current and that's from this company versus a lot of the stuff from my other company. Of course, there aren't as many scary tales from ProjectME with Tiffany because obviously I've learned a hell of a lot over all these years. So I avoid a lot of the messes and situations because I've been in all of them before. That's why it's always great to work with a high-level coach who has been there and done it all, because they can help you avoid and get you out of being in situations yourself, which will save you a ton of money and time. So the one I want to share from you from ProjectME, this is the one that's a little more vulnerable for me. Like I was like not sure if I wanted to share it. So, but I thought, you know what? if I heard someone sharing a similar story, it would make me feel very validated. It would make me feel less alone. So maybe there's someone out there that this will help. If not, I'm sharing it anyway. So I had a lot of resistance with ProjectME with Tiffany Carter, because obviously it's a personal brand, meaning it is, I'm the face, I'm the name of the brand. I'm the one who is doing the educating, the public speaking, the teaching, the coaching, the things. It is my face, my videos. It's me, it's me doing all the publicity, etc. So that's much different than when, so to speak, my other company is, yes, it's still my company and I'm the head of it, but I have people who work for me. It's the branding of the company is is more so of a logo and a name and a philosophy and a what we do to service and a reputation. It's not my face, me talking, me, more of me. So that is a little scary. I had to get over that. And what I think you guys will find perhaps interesting is that one of my biggest hurdles from starting ProjectME is because I have and I hate using the term chronic illness because it sounds like a low vibe term, but I have a chronic condition that I have to manage. Thank God it's something that is manageable if you have the right care team. But because of how I used to lead my life, my adrenal system stopped functioning properly. So I have to take medication. I have to do a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. I won't get into all of it. But one of the side effects of my condition before we've gotten it regulated is I became the heaviest I've ever been in my life. Now, for me, if you looked at me and saw me on the street, it wouldn't be like, oh my God, you're obese or something like that. But if any of you have ever gained weight or, you've been pregnant or whatever, to feel the heaviest you've ever felt, even if for you, it's just 10 pounds heavier, even if it's 7 pounds, it feels gross. You feel puffy, you feel swollen, you don't feel attractive. It affects our confidence. In my case, I think I gained, and I'm not exaggerating, in 3 months, I want to say it was probably 22 to 25 pounds. And that's as a result of this extreme hormonal imbalance from having this condition. Your body, and you're so fatigued, you can't exercise. And even if I couldn't have exercised it off. It's literally part of the condition. So I hadn't lost any of that weight, and I knew time was ticking away, meaning like I needed my soul. I had to create ProjectME. Like it had to happen. It was killing me every day. I didn't start it, but I was terrified because I knew that because I wanted to start it right and go big or go home, and I had the resources to do so, I knew I needed to have, professional photo shoots so I could have, great quality pictures for my website, for social media, etc. And I was terrified to have my picture taken. First off, I'm not someone who loves having my photo taken. I'm incredibly comfortable on video and on audio, but for some reason, still photography, I feel awkward, unless I'm drunk. But I feel awkward. It feels weird. It feels kind of stiff. At least in video, you're in motion, and I'm also like usually talking at the same time. So it's not as awkward for me, but I'm awkward anyway. Even on my best day, my best hair day, my best everything, I'm awkward, let alone being at significantly heavier than I've ever been in my life by far. So I knew who I wanted to work with. I knew the exact photographer I wanted to work with. She's worked with a lot of like the big influencers in the industry. So I knew who I wanted to work with, but I was even nervous about that because this photographer, which I'm not trying to keep a secret, it's Boss Babe Photography, Randy, she's great. she works with most of the women she shoots are big in the like health coaching, health, fitness, nutrition, influencer arena. So people like Lori Harder, for example, if you know who that is, she shoots women like that who have six packs and who have bodies that we would, most of us would dream of having. So I was, really nervous. I actually wasn't sure if she would shoot with me because, photographers, base their art on their most recent portfolio. And I was like, I even said, I'm going to ruin this chick's portfolio. I'm going to be like the fat girl in her portfolio. I mean, this is really what was going on. And I finally, my soul, the universe wouldn't let me hide anymore. Like I was literally getting sick, not creating ProjectME, like not starting it. So I just had to do it. And I thankfully had a health coach who's a dear friend of mine to this day, who was helping me through all of this stuff. And I spoke to her about it and she gave me a really good suggestion. She said, why don't you share this? Why don't you share this with the photographer? Like when you have that phone call, to see if you guys will work well together. If you vibe that she's a safe person, and a caring person, why don't you share this with her? And see her response. Like, I'm sure you're not the first female that she has shot that has any insecurities. Even though, those girls have great bodies and stuff, she's like, when you had the best body of your life, weren't there still things you were insecure about? And I go, excellent point. True. Very true. So I took her advice and I shared with Boss Babe Photography, Randy. I shared with her, that I'm nervous. And I even shared with her about like, I know you're used to shooting women who are, pretty easy to shoot from any angle. They look great. And I made that up. I didn't know that as a fact. And she told me that, and I could be quoting the weight wrong. She used to weigh 90 pounds more than she does currently. So she totally understood that whole weight thing. And she said, P.S., these, fitness models and these girls, she goes, they have major insecurities. A lot of them have more insecurities than, so to speak, normal looking people. And everyone has bad angles. Every single person, everyone. I mean, everybody. And it made me feel so much better about the whole process. And I just said, if I'd feel more comfortable. I even had during the shoot, I didn't want to see any of the test shots. You know how like you can work with a photographer, whether you guys have had a wedding photographer, whatever it is, and they'll show you like some of the shots along the way so you can see how good they look or if you want to adjust something. And I said, I'm going to put my faith in you. I love your work. And I'm going to put my faith in you and my awesome makeup artist and hairstylist. And I'm going to trust you guys on this. Because if I see those test shots and I look like Jumbo Mumbo over here, that's going to really kill my game for the rest of the shoot and it'll come across. So basically, I just trusted in the people around me. I was so freaking terrified, you guys, but I knew that by holding back and not starting ProjectME because of my own freaking physical insecurities was incredibly selfish and doing not only a disservice to myself, but a disservice to all of you out there who I know that I am called to serve, to help, to empower, to teach. Total disservice being caught up in something so petty like that. I'm not under, devaluating or whatever my feelings or anything like that. But the truth is getting caught up in something so superficial. Imagine, for example, like if Oprah, who, admittedly has had a lot of weight struggles, if she didn't show up for the world in the way that she does, all because of she gained 20 pounds, she gained 50, whatever. Imagine that. And thank God she did it anyway. I'm sure there were many times where she felt like, hiding hiding in the dark because she was ashamed she gained weight again, but she showed up again because her purpose is bigger than her. And I had to keep reminding myself of that. And thankfully, I had a health coach who encouraged me to be vulnerable and share my insecurities with that team so that they could best support me. And she had a great point. Like, you need the people who are helping you, whether it's a coach, whether it's an assistant, whether you have a photography, whatever it is, as long as the person is a safe person, and you shouldn't hire people who aren't. And someone who gets it and gets the whole thing. You need to be vulnerable to a certain extent with those people. Otherwise, they can't show up to help serve and support you as best as possible. And you have to have that support. So that was one of my scariest stories, was the last one I just shared. Even sharing it with you guys now, I'm a little flushed in the face. Just because it sounds so silly now that I was not going to, or was going to postpone or delay going after the company that the company and brand I was literally put on this earth to create, to give back to you guys, to serve, to take all of my years of experience in marketing and sales and money mindset and bring that to the world to help all of you guys get to where you want to go much faster, much easier, and in a more fun manner. And it's kind of embarrassing to know that I was going to hold off on doing that just because I was insecure about weight gain. And it wasn't even weight gain that was like from me stuffing my face, It sounds crazy to this day, but thank God I did it. Also, thank God my health is drastically improved. And as it improved, the weight started falling off. And, and even when I did my most recent photo shoot with Ignite Your Soul brand, even though I've still not lost all the weight I've gained, but I lost, a majority of it. Guess what, guys? Doesn't matter. Other insecurities popped up because I don't love being photographed. So other insecurities popped up anyway, just like my health coach said. Then it became about the fact that the medication I'm on makes me sweat really easily. So then my own kind of bashfulness and feeling weird was all about how easily I get warm and start sweating. So it just like transferred to something else. But at least this time I knew I hired the right people, and literally all 15 people who are part of this giant video photo shoot extravaganza, they literally all knew about the sweating thing. Like, it was said up front, it was said during, and I was able to like laugh about it. And then they were able to laugh about it during the process because where we were shooting at turned out to be like a hot box. So there was no way for me to not sweat. And I just started laughing because I didn't feel so insecure anymore because I had already shared it with everyone and everyone accepted it and accepted me anyway. And we just had a good time and the photos turned out great. I hope you all got some good insights, some laughs, some, oh my God, I can't believe that, from me sharing some of my scariest tales from my entrepreneur journey. And as always, you guys, wishing you great health, wealth, and worth. And of course, a very happy and safe Halloween. Bye, guys. If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.